near the ocean. I'm meteorologist Alan Casper.
Live from the studios of Town Square Media on WPG Talk Radio 1450, it's time for Hurley in the Morning with South Jersey's best two-way talker, Harry Hurley, the mayor of the morning. Harry is one of New Jersey's top 100 political power people and is now the only person from South Jersey ever elected to the Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame. Call Harry at 609-407-1450. That's 609-407-1450. Harry Hurley on WPG Talk Radio 1450.
All right, true confessions from the soul. I love every hour of the program, and we don't play favorites, but I have to confess, I have been looking forward to this hour with the great Mike Kunda for a couple of weeks now, since we met each other and we set up this hour on this day at this time to do this. Let me just tell you just a brief little bio, and I could go very, very long because Mike is extremely accomplished. Mike Kunda is a professional. He is a very highly regarded Rocky Balboa impersonator. I mean, literally, he has made a long career out of playing the Italian Stallion. Mike has a great book, Cue the Rocky Music, and you can find out about that, and I hope you'll pick up his book. I'm purchasing it as well. CueTheRockyMusic.com, Mike's website. We're also going to talk a lot this hour about what I believe, and I didn't know about this. Here we are, neighbors, and I'm a lifelong, huge Rocky fan. I had no idea until I met Mike Kunda at WHYY television studios where he was doing a TV program with Larry Menti, who, by the way, will be with us in studio next week for 2 hours. Let me just double check. I can't remember if it's Wednesday or Thursday. Give me 1 second here. It's Wednesday, 8 a.m. hour and the 9 a.m. hour with Larry Menti, the multiple Emmy Award winner, broadcaster and television personality. So I was filming a show about Atlantic City and the casino contraction and all these things that were going on. And Mike was there to film a program about the petition that he is the author of. I'm going to share something about that with you even before we turn Mike's microphone on. Mike's doing great work on this. So I find out from Mike Kunda in Delaware that some dope at the Philadelphia Arts Museum wants to tear down the iconic Rocky steps. So I got to know Mike a little bit during the day because we were both there for a number of hours together, and in between taping you have time on your hands, so we posed for a couple pictures, we were talking to one another, and I just fell in like with him. His personality is incredible, and he's just infectious in a positive way. So we're talking about this. I said, that's stupid. Mike's telling me about it, this petition he's doing, and we're going to tell you how you can sign it, and we can't allow them to do this. So I said to Mike, here's my theory. You know, you have art museum sort of hoity, folks that hate the fact that somebody might say, hey, I want to get my picture taken on the Rocky steps. They want it to be some cultural, situation, which it still can be and is. It's the Philadelphia Art Museum. But guess what? Those steps are truly iconic. And I will tell you, more people have run up those steps and put both hands over their head and jumped up and down, imitating Rocky, than probably ever went there to go see the culture aspect of it. See, to me, you should embrace. If something makes your operation famous, don't run away from it. Embrace it. So we'll get into some of that. But let me share with you some thoughts that Mike sent to me that I've been able to now be given the privilege of sharing with you under the heading of Save the Rocky Steps by Mike Kunda, who is the author of this. Those steps are a symbol to help us become what we dream, to be better. Maybe not the best in the world, but the best in our own world. The steps are like a sandstone psychiatrist, allowing us to visit with doubt and insecurity, bringing our beast of burdens and finding a way to leash them. The steps quiet the voice of fear and refusal, encouraging dignity and hope. We leave knowing we paid our way with sweat and determination, allowing us to move forward with conviction and strength of purpose. The power of dignity grows with use. The more we give, the more we get. Each step, a metaphoric statement in a life, pushing, breathing, living. Cultists prevail and measure their wins against the steps. The steps are an American grit, a homage to every nobody who became or hoped to become a somebody. The steps play to our hopes against making it, or at least trying to make it. Our backbreaking level of training, practicing, performing for the top shelf is reflected in the steps' ascent. The steps reach to the heavens, and when we're there, so do we. I dare you to run them, and not Rocky in a pirouette. You know it. He gets up there, the arms go up, spins around, Rocky pirouette. When we watch Rocky train, we're watching ourselves train. Rocky and the steps are the sum total of American can-do. It's our backbone. It's our blood. It's our symbol. Please, help save the Rocky steps. And I'll tell you, as much as I want to introduce Mike Kunda and his brand and the incredible job that he has done and how much joy he has brought to so many at the events that he stars at, and you just have to trust me on this one. Go Google. You don't even have to get fancy. Go Google image Mike Kunda. Kunda. Check out some of his YouTube clips, and I'm telling you, I thought I was seeing a mirage. I'm sitting there waiting to go do my taping, and all of a sudden, I turn around, and there literally was Rocky Balboa to me. His eye was with a black eye. He had some 2 or 3, I think it was 2 if I remember correctly, but it was weeks ago now. 2 steri strips, what are they called? When you don't get stitches, but you get the Band-Aid. It's a certain kind of Band-Aid. I forget what they're called now, but you know what I'm talking about. When you can not get a stitch because you can put the... somebody text me or email me. There's a name for that Band-Aid. So they're on there. And he's got the leather jacket, perfect hat. He's got the gloves with the fingertips cut off. He's got the bouncing ball that Rocky would have, always in his left hand, bouncing with the left hand. And I just said, this is incredible. I couldn't stop looking. Then I heard him speak, and it just blew me away. So it is my privilege to present Mike Kunda to Hurley in the Morning. Hey, Mike, I've been looking forward to our hour. It is great to be with you, Mike.
Butterfly stitches.
Butterfly, that's it. Thank you. Butterfly bandage.
There you go. Harry, it's great to be on the show, and can I just say, I'm going to record what you said, and on my tombstone, I'm going to have a little button so when people can walk up, instead of leaving flowers, they can just hit the button and hear all the nice things you said.
Well, you earned them all, and I'm telling you, just right there, you know this happens. When I hear you speak, Rocky comes out, doesn't he?
Well, it does. It's a real problem I've had for about 30 years.
It's incredible. So let me ask you, Mike, what I know why, because obviously as a Rocky impersonator and the owner and operator of Yo Philly Rocky Film Site Tours and the author of Cue the Rocky Music, I mean, Rocky that's been your professional life. It's your passion, isn't it?
It's been my life since I was 11 years old, totally. It's, it's something I think anyone can relate when they see those big white letters, Rocky, scrolling across that screen, and they hear Bill Conti's music. That's it. I mean, I think that's all she wrote, you know?
Do you sometimes we know exact quotes from movies and lines, but sometimes we sort of pick what we think the words are, and they're slightly different, and we sort of accept them like they're the right ones. Do you know, like, exact lines of the movies and just go into, like, dialogue sometimes?
You know what I did, and it was actually something I was known for literally decades. But what's happened since I've been doing my Rocky impersonation in Philly, as a professional for like the last 8 years, I've taken what the words were, and you can't apply it to every conversation you're going to have with a person you come in contact with. So I put it in a mental blender with my own personality. And the funny thing about this is the other night my wife and I were watching Rocky, and I went to quote a line before it happened, and I screwed it up. And my wife looked at me, her jaw was like down, and she's like, "Did you have a fever? Did you hit your head today? Like, what happened?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't recall them quite as exactly as I could." And you're talking, I saw the movie 600 times, plus 600 times, you know?
So for those listening, Mike Kunda, because there's Rocky 1, there's Rocky Civilized, there's Rocky Tommy Gunn, there's the final Rocky, which I think is more like Rocky 1 than any of the ones that followed thereafter. Before then, I think that it started great and it ended great. I didn't mind. I mean, I quote Rocky movies long before I met you, Mike. Like sometimes I'll go into Burgess Meredith and I'll say, "Rock, the worst thing that could ever happen to a fighter happened to you. You got civilized." So there's that era Rocky. Which Rocky are you?
1976, hands down, no question, very first Rocky, because it wasn't about muscles, it wasn't about money. Stallone was an unknown X factor at that point. He wasn't Sly in 1976. It was Rocky. It was right from the heart. It was about finding the best in yourself. Maybe not being the best in the world, but just saying, standing up and saying, "I matter." I have something I want to try to do. And to me, that has always been the essence of Rocky from day one.
Yeah, I mean, the movie, obviously, Academy Award-winning movie, Best Picture.
Oh, absolutely.
And as much as I hated it, I think it was essential that he had to give Apollo Creed everything he could take. And Rocky had to lose that fight, didn't he?
Absolutely, because by losing, he wins more in losing than he would have won.
Yeah.
Because we see the night before the fight, he goes to the arena and the promoter tells him it doesn't really matter what color your shorts are that you're wearing. I'm sure you're going to give us a good show. He realizes in that moment there is no way he can beat Creed. There is just no way. So what does he tell Adrian? He just wants to be standing when the final bell rings. If that's all, he just doesn't want to be another bum from the neighborhood. And I mean, if that's the most that we can expect from ourselves in life, just to not be another bum from the neighborhood, that's not a bad thing, I mean, not everyone's going to be the quarterback, the star quarterback of the team, but what do you have in yourself? When you are just sitting, do you sit on the sidelines or do you try to stand up and get involved to the best of your abilities?
We're visiting all this hour long. We're going to be with Mike until 2 minutes past the hour with Mike Kunda, Rocky impersonator. He owns his own business relative to the Italian Stallion, author of Cue the Rocky Music. The website is cuetherockymusic.com. And Mike, and we're going to talk about this a lot, I promise, as the hour goes on, about the Save the Rocky Steps petition that Mike is the author of, because this to me is, and I think I'm right, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think I'm right. I think it is this hoity art thing where this has to be like the Louvre Museum. This can't be the Rocky Steps, and God forbid that the Rocky statue could be, anywhere on those steps or near the Philadelphia Art Museum. So I really do think this is that parochial in nature. But before we get to your petition, Mike, I want to get this in real quick, then we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and go right to the petition next. I had a great conversation with you in Delaware that day, and one of the things we talked about, and I don't know how it came up, maybe I asked, have you ever met Sylvester Stallone? Did you guys ever do like a Rocky off, where like you're Rocky and he's Rocky, and how did it go? I think, if I remember correctly, you got one of the highest compliments paid to you that anybody in your line of work could ever have paid to them. Sylvester Stallone, I understand, was very impressed with your version of Rocky.
That's absolutely true. He was. We had a dinner at the Victor Cafe in South Philadelphia, and it was on Sylvester's birthday, his 60th birthday. And a friend of mine, we sat right next to him at dinner. And as he went outside to get a breath of air, the manager nodded to us, "Come on out, I'm going to reintroduce you again." So she did. She introduced us again, and he remembered me from filming and whatnot. And all of a sudden, everyone cleared the sidewalk. They went back in, and we had this 20-minute conversation right out front of the Victor Cafe. And we were talking about Rocky coming up, but we went right into, he started doing his favorite Rocky lines. I was doing my favorite Rocky lines. And he goes, it's pretty good. He goes, you ought to do something with that. And I was like, Sly, what am I going to do? Rocky's a fake character. I mean, you are Rocky. He goes, oh, weddings, bar mitzvahs, He goes, get a black hat and a coat. He goes, you do a great impression of me. And he goes, you really do look like me when I was 30. And I was like, oh, my God. It's like, when you hear something like that from the yardstick that you've measured your life to, it becomes something like when the Beatles landed at Shea Stadium. The girls were like fainting and going nuts. And I got to stay cool during this, so it was incredible.
Hey, Mike, do me a favor before we go to break. This would be an honor if you would do this for me, because we don't have time to record after the show, because I know you're going into another appointment. I'm putting you on the spot, if you don't mind, but I want to put a promo together that I think my executive program director himself will put together a great little outro, intro type liner out of this. If you could do whatever you want, but if you could at least begin it, yo, Harry, it's me, Rocky.
I would love to. All right, let's see. If I stumble,
we'll do it again
because of too many fake hits to the head. As a fake Rocky,
Yeah.
All right, let's try this. Yo, Harry, is me, Rocky Balboa, the Italian Stallion. I heard you're in the Hall of Fame. I'm in the Hall of Fame, too, for punching frozen beef and drinking raw eggs. Listen, if you got any class at all, tune into WPG and listen to Harry. This guy's got it going on. Yo, Adrian.
I love it. Oh, my gosh. A one-take wonder on top of everything else. Absolutely just fantastic. This portion of Hurley in the Morning brought to us in part by the Mays Landing Golf and Country Club, our official country club. Let me brag about a great event that not only will I be attending, but in Hamilton Township, Mays Landing. We have the privilege of presenting Mike Kunda. He is the Rocky impersonator, and when you Google him, you will see incredible YouTube clips and a lot about him. And I think it's really time to do justice to a big reason why Mike is here today. He felt so strongly about what the Philadelphia Art Museum was threatening to do. In fact, if a guy like Mike Kunda does not step up, this is not like it could happen. This is their plan. Mike, the plan is to demolish the Rocky steps at the Art Museum, right?
Yeah, they're going to take out a massive section. It's part of a 5-year plan of renovation they're doing of the interior galleries. And I really want to be clear here, Harry. I don't have an issue with the museum and the interior changing. That's fine, and no problem. What my concern is, they're going to take out the top section. There's like a 3-tiered top section of the steps directly in the center. And if you go to my petition, you will see the picture I have up of the architect's rendering of what it will look like. And they're going to take that out to put in a viewing window so you can see in and out of the gallery that will be built in the ground behind the steps.
Hey, Mike, let me just interject for a quick second. Is the petition located at your website, cuetherockymusic.com?
No, actually, they can quite simply, they can just type in Save the Rocky Steps. They can go to the website the letter I, petitions, and they can type in Save the Rocky Steps there. And there's a third spot for anyone who's a true Rocky fan. You can go to TotalRocky.com. The person who runs that, Holly Jonas, she put up a live link to the Save the Rocky petition. So, you got a few options there.
What do you think if just a groundswell of just a whole lot of good people step up and you can turn some massive petition in at the end of the day? Is this the kind of thing that you believe you can overturn this decision, or are they doing it regardless of pushback from the public?
Great question. Here's the deal. The deal is that it's being proposed. It's one of 10 ways that it can be designed. Now, apparently, the architect is Frank Gehry. I've never heard of him before. I'm not in the architect world. I hear pros and cons about his designs, but I found out it's not even his idea. One member on the Philadelphia Museum Board of Art who has a severe issue with Rocky and its connection to the Museum of Art.
There you go.
He went to Geary and said, what if we put a big viewing window in the steps? So, excuse me. So this is where it's stemming from. It didn't even stem from Frank Geary. But when they interviewed him in print and on the news, I watched him, and Frank Geary doesn't get the connection to Rocky. I don't understand how, unless you've lived in a cave for 35 years, how you don't get that connection. But, we'll see.
Wow. I didn't even know it officially, but I knew it. Sometimes your gut just serves you the best. I knew that some dope that had a problem with Rocky would stoop to this. So stupid, so unnecessary, and now it's even worse because you've confirmed now, Mike, that the architect himself, it's not in his plans until this one person stepped up. Is one person going to get away with this?
Well, here's the thing. A very good friend of mine, Mike Vitez, he's a reporter for the Philly Inquirer, and he also wrote a brilliant book, which, as much as I like selling my own book, I do want to put a plug in for him, Rocky Stories. It's about why people come to this Rocky Steps, and everyone calls it the Rocky Steps. He wrote a column about last Sunday, and he interviewed a lot of people as to the pros and cons. And then, of course, on the internet, he's got a comment section, and there's about 185 comments, and 95% of them are in support of the Rocky Steps. Leave them alone. What are we going to do next? Are we going to shorten the dress on the Statue of Liberty to reflect modern trends? Are we going to fix the crack in the Liberty Bell? I mean, where do we stop with modernizing old classics,
Love it. We're going to take a brief time out, coming right back. When we come back, I want to ask Mike about what does a Rocky impersonator do? Exactly what do you do as we continue? In just a moment. Stay with us. It is early in the morning, and this is WPG Talk Radio.
Well, you know how that goes. I was not an angry kid. I come from a middle-class family with two parents who were unbelievably supportive, so I never had that urge to try to impose my will on others. So one time my grandfather, I guess, got wind of the beatings I was taking, and he knew that I was a Rocky fan, so he gave me his old fedora and black leather coat, which were a little big at the time, but that became my suit of armor. So I would wear that to school, and I would encourage the wrath of other bullies because I was dressing like Rocky. But the whole time, I'm training to be a Rocky impersonator, and I never knew it because I'm a very insecure guy. So Rocky gave me that crutch. He gave me that security where I realized, maybe I'm not quite the loser I think I am, or maybe I was.
I'll tell you what's interesting, Mike, and I'm going to say that I think, hearing you say that we share a common thing. I've only said this a few times in the last 24 years on air, but I forget it now because my career has forced me to be an extrovert, and now I'm comfortable with it, but I'm introverted by nature. I did not like getting up in front of people. If I was in school, I did not want to get called on. I didn't raise my hand to have the teacher call on me to give the answer. I would have to get called on in order to participate. I did my work, fairly solid student, not great, but, B type student. But I didn't want to get up and do the Gettysburg Address. I was terrified of that.
Really?
So I'm an introverted person by nature, but my career has made me an extroverted person. So now I forget the introvert. So you almost sound like the same way. If you were not so extroverted, because I saw you light up. Everybody loved you over there. You when you're there, no matter who it is, if it's Larry Menti, if it's anybody that was going to be on all these other panels, everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants their picture taken with you, me included. Remember I said, Mike, can I get a picture? So you have to always be on, don't you?
Well, yeah, and speaking about that the other day when we were at the studio there, I thought my mother had called in and offered everyone $5 to be nice to me, but it turns out you guys are Rocky fans, and yeah, you do have to be on a lot. And the thing that I think I've developed over the last 10 years you got to be able to ad-lib and be witty, because you will get things thrown at you. And, you know, when you're working a room or working an event as quote-unquote Rocky, you've got to be very witty. You can't say the same thing over and over, because if you walk the room, you're like, I'll get hired for an hour or whatever. If I walk the room, you know, the first time around, they hear the first things I have to say. But then the second time, if I can't think of something new, it's like, oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, you're like a joke. You're like a one-trick Johnny, one-trick note.
And Harry, that's my biggest fear, is looking bad in front of all these people and making the client who hired me look bad. So I really just kind of embrace the fact, go with it. It's okay to look silly, or if you say something that it doesn't make sense or whatever, you know, just go with it. It's okay to fail. Expect it, you know, embrace it, bring it on. And then I think that way you get better, you know.
I thought of the Clubber Lang line that I was looking for. He's just given Rocky it's a horrible beatdown, as you know, in the first one when Mick dies. It's just all wrong. You know, Apollo said it. Hey, your manager died. You know, it's just all wrong. And he fought the wrong way and all that. And then, of course, Apollo trains him, and, you know, it's great stuff. I mean, but the line he says is, I got a lot of more. Got a lot of more. That's the line I love. Yeah, well, exactly. Got a lot of more. So let me ask you this, Mike, and those just joining us, Mike Kunda is an extraordinary, highly respected Rocky impersonator. When you meet him, you fall in love with him. His personality is just awesome. You're 11 years old, and you watch Rocky for the first time. What was your reaction?
Yeah. It was like Frankenstein. You know, when Frankenstein first comes to life, the lightning bolt hits him in the side of the neck, and his heart just goes boom, boom. And it was like my blood, my DNA, the very core of who I was, changed in a second. I was completely blown away, and I said, this is the purest form of passion I have ever seen. Only I was 11 years old. I didn't understand what the word passion was, but looking back, that is what I was feeling. I never forgot that moment.
Now, you mentioned a little bit ago dressing like Rocky in high school because your grandfather gave you his old black fedora and his leather coat. Yeah. What was that experience like? Because you're doing something you love, and yet you have to deal with peer pressure, and as you know, kids can be very cruel and say and do things. Was this, how did this go in high school when you were dressing like Rocky?
Well, you know, the sad part about it, you know, in 5th grade, you know, it's like you try to push away from the bullies, 3rd grade, whatever. I used to wear a Halloween costume, a Superman Halloween costume underneath my clothes to school, because I thought this would force me to be strong. And so one day a bully ripped off the shirt, the cape unfurls, and I had to live with that for X amount of years. So my grandfather hears about this. He calls me up to his house one night, and he had this old A-frame attic, and there's this single 100-watt bulb hanging above us. And he was a smoker, so he's got the cigarette hanging out the corner of his mouth. And I go up the steps, and he's got this box there, and it's got the hat in it, and he hands me the hat, and then he gives me the coat. And he says, you know, your grandmother wants me to get rid of these things. I don't have room in the attic anymore. I thought that was a little weird, but whatever. So I'm looking in an old mirror that he had off to the side, and it hits me like a second bolt of lightning. I say, oh, my God, I look like Rocky. This is Rocky's hat. This is Rocky's coat. And he just winked at me, and off I went. So now, fast forward to high school, because that was middle school. So now in high school, I'm wearing this around the halls in 9th and 10th grade. Nobody's talking to me. I thought it would have been a big hit with the girls, but sadly, I never got that dance right either until I met my wife. And, you know, people, you know, it was terrible. I would bring the girls chocolate. They would, you know, have sugar. If I brought them flowers, they were allergic, had allergies. So it was never a dance I got right. But in high school, I would literally get shoved into a locker, and they would take the Rocky hat and throw it into the boys' shower or whatever. And it was a pretty bizarre experience, but, you know, I deal with that.
People don't realize that they've never had it happen, but bullying, and it's nearly epidemic still in America today, can have very significant consequences that people carry with them for the rest of their life.
Well, Harry, well said. That's the thing. Back in the day, you can go a fisticuffs with someone and kind of put the bullying to rest. Today, these kids got to deal with the internet and the Twitter and all these things. They can be cyberbullied, and that's one of the things in the rest of this year and next year I'm going to start looking into is going to schools and talking about bullying and standing up and having your friends stay together with you. Because if you're being picked on alone at school, the next day it could be someone else. So I say stand together in a small group, because you take one bully, he's going to push around one or two kids. But one bully pushing around 6 kids, come on, that guy's going to get a beating he ain't never going to forget.
I love it. Now, if you go into the schools, I got to get the last break in. We got plenty of time when we come back, because I want to talk about your book when we come back and a few more things. Will you go into the school as Mike Kunda, or will you go into the school as Rocky?
Whatever one does not get me arrested.
I love it. I think Rocky would be very effective. To hear Rocky go into school and talk to kids about bullying, I think that would be effective for kids that are being bullied, and I think it would even make a statement to the kids who do the bullying.
Yeah, very much so. And I've got some friends who are in schools that are teachers and whatnot, and we're going to work on some tests and see what's going to be the most effective way, because at the end of the day, I want that message to come across. So we'll see what happens.
Final break. We have until 2 minutes past the hour. We're at 15 minutes before the top of the hour, so 17 minutes left with Mike Kunda, Rocky impersonator. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Mike about his book, Cue the Rocky Music. I just like the name alone. And, of course, you can find out about his book, cuetherockymusic.com. Mike Kunda, a.k.a. the Italian Stallion Rock.
Listen to Hurley in the morning.
Welcome back. It's a pleasure this hour to be presenting Mike Kunda, a very highly respected, talented Rocky impersonator, owner-operator of Yo Philly Rocky Film Site Tours, author of... I've bitten that down a little bit. But, Mike, please, don't worry. My impersonation is by no means a threat. By no means. And of course, Mike is the author of his book, Cue the Rocky Music, and he's also the author of the petition to save the Rocky Steps, which I still think is absolute lunacy that anybody would come up with such a cockamamie idea. You would hope that that would be something that they would embrace, because anything that would bring folks to your place, whether it's because they love Rocky or because they love the Philadelphia Art Museum, I don't think that matters. It's just something that's so just historically significant now. Were you surprised, Mike, when you heard the news that somebody wanted to tear that steps down?
Yeah, I was. I wouldn't have been more surprised if I woke up with my head painted to the wall. I mean, I could not believe they were doing this. The whole thing here is, I think this is part stunt, part dream thinking. I think they're trying to get an uproar going, to get people talking about it, to bring people through the door to pay to come and see this. It's all about money. So my thought was, and you've said it before, Harry, you're very aware, the Museum of Art never grasped or celebrated the Rocky phenomena, right? So I say, why don't you do a Rocky exhibit? Now, I'm not talking about Rocky's hat or his boxing shorts or his boxing gloves. That's what Planet Hollywood is for. I'm saying, we all know Sylvester Stallone is an established painter. Whether or not you like his work is irrelevant. On one of their wings, you do a Sylvester Stallone exhibit. You put his paintings in. Now, the Rocky fans have to come in and pay to see that, so the museum's making money. Now, you take Rocky artists from around the world. You take their inspired works, and they don't have to be Stallone-looking. They don't have to resemble Stallone. They could just be pictures of victory or sculptures or whatever. And now you put that from around the world to show how Rocky has inspired a planet. And I think you're going to bring those people, and you've seen them. They run the steps, they jump up and down, and they get back on the tour bus, and they leave. Now they will have a compelling reason as Rocky fans to go into the Museum of Art. And it's win-win. The museum makes money, and Rocky fans get to share more of their passion. So, what do you think?
I think it's a great idea. I think it actually might be something that they could actually embrace and not be threatened by. That would actually be very, very smart. Very good idea, Mike. Mike, tell your listeners, because I don't want to lose track of time here. We have 10 minutes left together. Tell your listeners about Cue the Rocky Music, your book. How did it come about? Tell us about it.
It started as a thank you letter. I had a lot of run-ins with Stallone, a lot of meetings, a lot of talks. And can you believe I never said thank you to him for all he's done to inspire me? I felt so guilty about this. I started to write a fan letter. And one thing led to another. I had gotten fired from a job I was at just through downsizing back in 2008. And I said, I want my time off to count for something. So one chapter evolved into another, and I had the book. So my goal was just not to sell it, become the greatest writer in the world. My goal was to get the book to Sylvester Stallone. The book basically comes down to practice and opportunity. In other words, you're given an opportunity in life. What have you done to be ready for it? What have you practiced? What have you learned? That is the essence of my book, told through me wanting to become a Rocky, becoming Rocky. I mean, I didn't know there was a Rocky impersonator job when I was a kid. I had no idea. So it talks about the love of family and how no person is an island. We don't do things alone. We need the love and support of others. But, you know, when we're down and when we don't know what to do, and without that, I mean, I don't think you have quite as much.
Is your Rocky brand at this point, this is your full-time living?
Yeah, it's seasonal. That's the downside. The downside to doing this is that it's a very seasonal job for about 9 or maybe 8 or 9 months out of the year, and then it slows down. And you know what I do? I pick up a few hours here and there at a paint shop. I sell paint, and then I go back to working my Philly routes throughout the nicer months.
Now, you can also paint yourself, correct?
Yeah, I'm a decent painter. I should say I was a decent painter. I had done a very interesting painting of Rocky and Apollo from the 14th round, and I brought it with me. It's a black and white painting. I brought it with me when I was on set. Stallone saw it, and he just fell in love with it. And he said it had captured the heart and soul of Rocky.
Wow.
And he said he signed it for me. You know, he picked it up, he held it, he signed it, and he goes, I don't ever want to see this on eBay. It's better than that.
Wow.
You know,
you're better than that.
You're better than that.
Can you do me, Mike, if you would do me the honor, you know my email address, would you send me a picture of that painting? I have to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, please.
Absolutely.
Please, and I know you will do it for me. You're a man of your word. I got to see it because I love you. I love your work. Here's another thing that I think we have to talk about before we run out of time here. I know what my wife means to me, everything, for 32 plus years. I know your wife, Sue, means everything so much to you. Tell us about your wife and how she supports, you know, what's so important to you. And I know I learned about something that you might not even know that I know about in preparation for this interview. She did something very special for you.
She did. Your listeners can go to the dictionary right now, and they can look under brilliant, and they will see her picture. She did something so special. When I was a kid, I saw Rocky on TV. I never saw the original in the movie theater. So that's always been like a to-do thing, a bucket list thing, a regret I had. So for Christmas, she rented out a movie theater for 200 of my friends and family, and she got them to show Rocky. And it was the most amazing gift I think any spouse could ever give. I don't know how she's going to top this. I mean, she's going to have to bring Stallone in for my next birthday, right?
What was that like? See, I did see it on the big screen when it first came out, and I loved it. I fell in love with Rocky immediately, and just the success of the brand. And I'll tell you what else I was very happy about. I'm happy about the last movie because that last movie had greatness, sheer greatness, and very rarely, I don't know if that was at the 6th one, maybe even 7th, very rarely does a movie that far into a franchise, if you will, ever have that quality, and it did.
Well, look what happened with Godfather 3, right?
Exactly.
You know, that was horrible. So Rocky Balboa, the 6th Rocky, it returned to the roots of Rocky 1, Rocky 2, where it was about heart. And how do we fall in love with Rocky again? We fall in love with Rocky again because Adrian is gone. And you're totally right.
Here's something I want to close on. We have about 5 minutes left in your program, Mike. I know this fellow a little bit. In fact, my twin brother and I met him with a good friend of ours, Glenn Lilly, who was the vice president of the Claridge at the time, and Chuck Wepner was working with them on an event. So you and I actually had a chance to talk about the Bayonne bleeder, Chuck Wepner, when we met each other in Delaware a few weeks ago, and you have a great story about the real Rocky, the Bayonne bleeder, Chuck Wepner. Mike, Kunda, take it away.
Chuck Wepner and I did a charity gig a few years back. We didn't know each other at the time, and we became tremendous friends immediately that day. As a matter of fact, after the event, we hung around for about 3 hours discussing life. So I was all done up with the Rocky hat and the fedora and the bruise, and he walks up to me, and the man is about 6'5". He is a massive man, and he's one of the most gentle human beings I have ever come across. I mean, this guy, he's just a dear, dear friend, and he read my book. He loved it, and he called me on the phone, and he with his thick Jersey accent, he says, "You know, Mike, I loved your book. I want you to write my story." So now I'm out working on my second book, interviewing Chuck and writing about his life, which has been so amazing. And if you've seen ESPN's 30 for 30, the Real Rocky documentary, it was a great story that they did, but they only touched on his life. And we're going into things. I think this is going to be an interesting book. Great man, great man.
The Bayonne bleeder. I'll tell you what, we met him one time and one time only, but when you meet him, he just appears, and I can hear it in your voice, Mike, he appears to take a genuine interest when you're talking to him. Like a lot of people, you can tell it's shtick, it's superficial. Chuck Wepner seems to take a genuine interest, doesn't he?
Oh, he's the real deal. He will sit and listen to you. And the thing about Chuck, he hands out his business cards to everyone. And all you have to do, his home phone number is on there. He is so accessible. He'll call you, take a picture with you. He'll send you an autographed picture. The man is truly blessed, and he knows how lucky he was. Even though, it's no secret, he had that lawsuit with Stallone a few years back. He loves Stallone. It was all business. He admires him. He loves Muhammad Ali. He understands these people really went into making the Bayonne bleeder who the Bayonne bleeder is, plus Chuck's own stamina.
Mike, let me see if this is a number of years ago that I met him. It's a long time ago, more than probably, could be a decade and a half ago. If I'm not mistaken, because I still have it, I could put my hands on it. It's in my office at home. His business card was him when he was fighting Muhammad Ali, correct?
Yep.
And I have that signed by him, and it has that same phone number. Is that same number still good?
Same number.
Wow. So that's pretty neat. 2-minute drill with Mike Kunda, the fabulous Rocky impersonator. Let me let you close on Save the Rocky Steps, a closing comment. And we're going to visit again, Mike, as long as you say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. I'm available tomorrow. Call me.
There you go. I love it. I'm available tomorrow. How about we just keep going now? So good. You'll come back, and that makes me happy. So give us a closing comment, Mike. We have about a minute and a half on Save the Rocky Steps.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all hoping these steps stay intact, that they don't change. I think if people just go to the petition, sign it, put a comment on there. I'm going to print out all of the signatures. I'm going to go to all the news networks, local news networks. I'm going to try to get it national. The least that I can hope for is that I get a conversation, like a national conversation going about why we should not change something that represents a symbol of hope and dignity to millions of people. That's my biggest hope. Will we affect change? Listen, your audience can help.
Mike, our end of program music is about to play, which gives us less than a minute left in the show. You have great instincts. I've gotten to know you. If you had to guess right now, is it more likely that the steps will stay the same, or is it more likely at this time that even if you say that it's more likely they'll change, we still have time to have a game changer? But and we're back. Glenn Beck starts in 3 minutes. Let me jump in real quick, and I asked Mike if he would stay for just one more minute. Then that still gives me a couple minutes to prime the pump for the weekend lineup and how I like to conclude the program. And I didn't want to end it on an abrupt note there. Is it more likely right now, if you had to say, that the steps will stay the same or that they will change?
They're going to stay the same. The main core section that we saw in the movie, I believe they are going to stay the same. I believe this is a bit of a gimmick to get people to come in to see the display in the museum, to pay to raise money. I mean, they got to raise $350 million to do this. They got to get public opinion. And here's another thing, Harry. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if your listeners know this. I don't even think the Museum of Art owns the steps. I believe it's the Parks and Recreation Department that owns the steps. And I got that on very, very solid legal authority. So I don't know how they're going to get around this.
Well, hopefully that what you just said, that changes everything.
Exactly. And then at the end of the day, I'm just going to chain myself to the steps like Fonzie chained himself to the boulder at Inspiration Point. I'm just going to chain myself there.
Looking just like Rocky, like you do. Wish it wasn't over, but we got to get out of here. My brother wrote in, love Mike. Cut me, Mike. Cut me, Mike. You can use that.
Call me, Vic. Call me, Vic.
Mike, you're a pleasure, and let's do it again, and keep up your great work. Really an honor to spend this hour with you.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate it. Best of life to you.
Thank you, sir. You too. That's Mike Kunda, a.k.a. Rocky Balboa. My time has just about come and gone just for this broadcast week, so let your heart not be troubled. We'll be back on Monday, early in the morning. In fact, I'm going to say, Mike, if you held on there, I'll say hello to you off the air. I just need about a minute here. And let me just share with you, Glenn Beck, of course, is starting in moments. Joe and Scott, live and local, from 1 to 3 today, The Joe and Scott Show. Sean